approval of the agenda.
So before we do it, I have a question about item 3. What's the change between the yellow and the purple?
Good question. 2 words.
Can I address that in my
Yeah.
presentation? Yeah, there's 2 pieces of property on the Mount Scott Reservoir site. One's owned by Sunrise and one is owned by ODOT. And when we approached this, we thought both pieces of property were owned by Sunrise. Kim Swan notified us on Tuesday, or Kim Anderson notified us on Tuesday that there was a real property and a personal property there. And there's some easements and some rights that go along with that. So that was the main change.
So the change was just instead of just real property, it's real and personal property.
In 2 locations in the first 2
That's right.
paragraphs.
Just couldn't figure out where the
Yeah.
change was. Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Call the question. Call the question.
Just so you're voting on the agenda.
You'll vote on it.
Commissioner Andrews? Yes.
Commissioner French, Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil,
Yep.
motion passes unanimously.
We have one, excuse me. One who would like to speak from the attendees.
All right, I can use this chair now. Get up. Gary Kerr, ratepayer and budget committee. In the Milwaukee Review, I hope you saw this yesterday article. I found it very interesting that it was necessary, that I hadn't heard before at least, to use the Lake Oswego plant to help supply water while the pipe was down. That wouldn't have happened several years ago before that plant was there, and we'd have been in much more trouble providing enough tank capacity to last the 3 days. The interesting thing about that is there was a tabletop this last summer on emergency water in the region. So my question is, did the board get notified that this backup was available to help supplement back water, at least to West Lynn? The other question is then, is the board aware of whether or not that the line between West Lynn and Oregon City can backfeed into Oregon City should the South Fork plant have problems? So that was my 2 questions on this particular article that I wanted to put on the table with the board.
So I knew Westland built their pump station 5 years ago. And they've known that they needed that for a long time. So they had that placed in the new plant, just provided the water they needed to use to pump it to the south so that it could get into their system. But I wasn't aware of the tabletops.
Okay, so anyway, my concern was whether or not staff has informed the board to know if those kind of things are available for emergency water.
Yeah, so on the whole South Fork shutdown, staff was extremely involved. Joe led for CRW, and we had a number of different staff involved. The idea behind using the Lake Oswego plant was Westland exercise their connection to Lake Oswego to serve their needs during the curtailment period, and then that then created less of the demands on the South Fork system. For CRW, we were, of course, turned off of the South Fork system, and so we were reliant on our storage during that process, and then had our well available if something went drastically wrong. As I had reported to the board, and it's in the board management report too, is system performed well. It was nice. Our customers also reduced their water demands considerably during that period, which was very helpful, and actually allowed us to gradually put the system back in operation. So that was good. So I hope that kind of answers some of the questions. Oh, Joe, sorry.
I can expand if you
Yeah.
want to.
Joe liked that project.
I'm glad it went well too, and it really did. We The curtailment message worked. We had a reduction of about 25% of use over the normal day-to-day use. So the people listened. The shutdown took a little longer than was first estimated by the contractor, but we were only down within, the reservoir use was within the normal operating parameters of the system. We just didn't fill them as rapidly as we would had we had a water source. With regard to West Lynn, in the article that Gary's mentioning, is patting themselves on the back for going through all the pain of putting that water treatment plant for Lake Oswego in West Lynn, and how it benefited West Lynn. Now, this is the second time they've used it. They had it was a below peak flow, so they had enough capacity through that meter to feed West Lynn from Lake Oswego's plant. There is not enough head to get that water from Lake Oswego into the South Fork and Oregon City system. They would have to add a pump station, new piping. It is not an emergency source for Oregon City or Clackamas River. That's really the bottom line.
Never designed for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, I move to approve the purchase of one 2020 Freightliner chassis, with 5-yard dump capacity, 35 to 38 pound GVWR dump truck with associated equipment and hardware not to exceed amount of $124,089.
Second.
I'll second.
Anna, did you want to tell us about the truck?
Oh, sure.
But this isn't the whole dump truck, right? We're just getting,
That is for the whole.
well, that's for the whole thing?
Yep.
Better be for 124.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good price. We're using the state of Oregon price agreement with Freightliner, so seeing some cost savings there. We budgeted $180,000 for it in the 17-19 budget, and we did it for substantially less. There is a question on timing still. Maybe that we don't, certainly we'll get the chassis, it looks like, by the end of June 2019, but whether or not we get the completed truck with the truck body, the dump and everything by that time period. It's looking good right now, so we're envisioning not having a budget, secondarily for the other half, so to speak, in the following budget year. We need a truck to replace, as I wrote there, one that's got a lot of years, a lot of miles on it. This size of dump truck, it's about half size of the standard 10 to 12 foot or cubic yard dump bed. They're very, very useful for our crews to utilize on a number of applications out in the system because of their compact size. Just very useful for service installs, some lighter main braid repair work, hauling small quantities of spoils or rock to and from construction sites. So we're real happy to get another one, a reliable one back in the fleet to replace Old Blue, as the guys call it.
What are the years and miles on Old Blue right now?
I believe it's a late 80s,
Wow.
early 90s era truck. And miles, I could not hazard a guess.
Just a lot, okay.
Yeah, it does have, for our use, it has a lot of miles. One thing to keep in mind is that our dump trucks, much like our construction equipment, excavators and whatnot, we don't necessarily track by the miles. It's more years of use. It's a
Which is
heavy
about
construction.
30, huh?
Pardon?
About 30 years.
Yeah, getting up there.
Okay. Is current equipment gonna hold up until you do get the replacement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we phased it in such a way that we're still utilizing that truck. We actually have 2 5-yard dumps, so if something happened to one of them, we always have the other's backup. It's just very convenient to have 2 of those sizes of it.
Call the question.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Looks like we're skipping number 2. We're going to number 3. Oh.
That's the purple.
You're not just-
Carol.
Uh-oh.
Number
No, so item 2, we're gonna postpone. You heard it
Right,
as part of the
okay.
work
I was gonna
session
say.
on the audit, that the
Okay.
final documents aren't ready yet, so
Okay,
All right.
we're
that's
not
all.
gonna ask you to accept something that we haven't given you, so
Okay.
we will get that to you next week, and we'll put it on the January. But in the meantime, I do wanna know, we will be submitting the documents to the states as per the requirements have to be the end before the end of the year, so that will all get taken care of.
okay. Do we go ahead and do it? I move to approve the intergovernmental license agreement between Clackamas River Water and Sunrise Water Authority and authorize the general manager to sign the agreement.
Second.
Good evening, Commissioners. Our purpose here is to give you some information about the intergovernmental agreement that is required to finish as part of our VHF radio system. And Dave asked the question, or Commissioner McNeil asked the question early on, where were the changes? And so there were 2 changes in the first 2 paragraphs. Real property was changed to real and personal property. And then any other references that reference the property were reviewed and okayed by the attorney. The terms of the agreement are similar to what was approved by Oak Lodge. Sunrise will provide us with space and basic utilities. In exchange, they give us system access to the radio system, and we're gonna give them a couple of radios. Differences in this one were the property issues that we identified. Again, we went in assuming that they owned both pieces of property, and then found out partway through the process that that was not the case. We fixed that. One of the differences that was identified is that if we decide to try to sell space to non-public agencies in the system, Sunrise would like a share of the profits that we might realize from that. They rent space. This is something they do all the time, and they want to make sure that they get their piece of the pie, which is fair and reasonable. We did retain the right that if we want to bring on another public agency, and I'm going to use Gladstone as an example, if we wanted to bring Gladstone onto the system, we could recover a portion of our construction costs and then maintenance and those types of costs, because they're not bringing anything to the table. And because this is a microwave and not a radio signal, the requirements for the interference study that we did with View Acres has been done, and currently we're in a comment period from the other site users. We don't have to go through this process. Microwave's different than radio signals. In summary, the disagreement is required to build phase 3 of the VHF radio system, provides a cost-effective location to proceed with system development, and will facilitate the site linking for seamless operation between our 2 sites. It basically allows us to use both channels at the same time. We don't have to guess what channel somebody else, one of the other employees might be on in order to contact them, because we're broadcasting across both depending on location. Radio system completion is an approved goal of the board, general manager, and staff. It expands an existing partnership with Sunrise Water and will lead to the establishment of our seamless day-to-day and emergency communications capability, and bring in a lot of partners that aren't linked on, that aren't linked on any other system. So that's really all I had. Is there any questions?
Thank you.
One step closer.
Yep, that's it. They're almost ready to issue.
Pardon me?
I went watching the comments, they're almost ready to issue that.
This will do both, unless there's-
Call for the question.
Okay. Commissioner Andrew,
Yes,
Commissioner French,
Oh,
Yes.
wait, you
Oh.
have,
Oh, you're.
Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
Oh, I didn't
Gary.
see it. Okay.
sorry.
come on up.
Don answered one of my questions. I haven't been able to attend all the meetings, so what I'm asking you may already know. My concern was on page 3 with regard to the compensation, where it talks about the usage by SWA. I noticed they had, gonna end up with 20 radios. I'm assuming we're buying equipment that is sufficient to handle our 20 or 30 and their 20. That's an assumption on my part, because I didn't know that, but I want to confirm that. I didn't find anything, however, in here with regard to usage on who has priority for an emergency. Should the system not handle it? And that's again a capacity issue that I don't know the answer to. Did we have to buy any extra equipment other than what we would normally need to accommodate by SWA? Those are my three questions, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
That's all.
now, hang on, make sure I get them all before you
Okay.
take off.
Okay.
Number of radios, according to the way the system's been designed, we have capacity for up to 100 radios. We've reserved space for CRW for 40. We've given 20 to Sunrise, 20, or not given, space for up to 20 radios to Sunrise and 20 to View Acres, and that's only 80 radios. So we've left room if we need to bring on another partner, or want to bring on another partner down the road. As far as prior use, we have not established that. These are for emergency and day-to-day use, and I believe that if it got that bad, that we were at capacity, that means the region's impacted, and we're gonna come together, we're gonna develop a communications plan and establish those priorities, and how we can communicate as a number of agencies to get the job done and get systems restored. Was there one more piece?
The other one was if we had to buy extra equipment, and based on what you just said, it doesn't sound like we did. So.
Right, the systems will handle it.
So your system, by programming, you can set priority levels by user.
Okay.
Just a checkbox.
Yeah. So we have the capability to do it,
Yeah, you do.
we'll have to figure out if
It's a conversation you have with the group.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Andrews says yes. I thought you,
Well,
You already
we got
said
into
my
your
name.
name, yes.
How much coffee did you drink tonight?
none.
None? Oh, my goodness. Ooh.
Commissioner Finn,
Sure.
Commissioner Garris,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3.
No, we just did that.
Oh. Yeah, we did, okay. Item 4.
Okay, so we're gonna take each of these separately, right?
It sounds like we have to.
Yeah, okay. I'll start with the first one. I move the board offer to amend section 1 of the contract with P&L Moore Development LLC to extend the term of the contract through completion of the scope of work, subject to termination by the board at any time and for any reason within 14 days written notice, and authorize the general manager to sign a contract amendment to that effect on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second. Call.
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Second item.
I move the board offer to amend section 5 of the contract with P&L Moore Development LLC to increase its not-to-exceed amount to $45,000 and authorize the general manager to sign a contract amendment to that effect on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for
Commissioner Andrew,
Yes?
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
this. Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I'm not going to do this motion because I'm not voting.
I'll do it. Ready? I move that the board offer to amend Exhibit C to the contract with P&L Moore Development LLC to include pursuing any required approvals or permits from Portland General Electric in connection with the Beaver Lake Pump Station project and from Portland General Electric and Bonneville Power Administration in connection with the South Grafton Road project, and authorize the general manager to sign a contract amended to that effect on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Any questions, discussion?
Call.
Commissioner Anger,
No.
Commissioner French,
No.
Commissioner Garrison,
No.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-2.
Item 12.
So I asked us to be on the agenda. I'm gonna try to make sense out of this contract. Since we absolutely had it, our general manager made a comment at our work session that, I was trying to figure out where the contract came from, and you said that we gave it to you. I couldn't remember that happening, and so, at that time, we were changing council and changing lots of things were going on, and so, I've been trying to just pull in all the information about what that process was, and the one thing that I have been able to figure out is, at no time has this board received review by council. Mr. Phillips has told me that he never reviewed the contract, and Mr. Sterringer has told me that he never reviewed the contract. And the best I can tell in reviewing what we had with our prior manager, your contract took that, and I don't know where you got it from, because I couldn't get anybody to tell me who gave it to you. And so, I believe that contract was just worked through when Ken and Larry and, I don't remember, I honestly do not know where that contract, how it came up. And so, there are things in that contract that bother me, especially since we had to work this summer with our insurance company, that I think we need to have a good look at. And I'd like to get this in an executive session and have the board, council, and general manager work through those issues. I guess I'd make a motion that we set a time to set up an executive session to go through these issues and get this contract finished up.
Okay, you lost me.
Okay?
Like, no. You lost me at I. Okay,
Oh, no, please.
no, well, okay, so you're questioning his original contract? Where
Well, I'm
that came
questioning a
from?
lot of parts of the contract.
Okay, but the original contract, the one before
Well,
this
the
one?
original contract was never vetted through council. Every contract we ever approved is checked by council.
Okay, so
This
that,
contract has never been done.
his first one.
And I don't know
Or
whether the
anybody,
contract,
okay.
I don't know what the contract, because I wasn't here for the other one.
Okay, the one that, before this one that we're
Mhm.
dealing with now,
Never been through council.
okay, so, all right, but the one we're dealing with now has already been through council? Did you go through the
I think,
contract?
are you referring to the amendment that's the next agenda item?
Yeah,
That amendment has been reviewed by
Okay.
council by me, yes.
but not the entire contract. We haven't had, that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
The-
right, the
You're
entire
saying that
contract.
the attorney.
The board never sat down with council and went through this contract and made sure that it fit what the board wanted to do. That has never happened.
Okay, but I thought when Hugh called that special work session, that was the time to go through all this stuff, and we ended up saying, okay, you know, we got it set, any other questions, any other concerns?
No,
Okay.
gotta be
Didn't-
careful with that.
Well, no, that's what I asked in
No,
that
no,
work
so,
session.
so we could not ask those other questions because it wasn't noticed by law. So the only thing we could talk about in that work session was the stuff that was noticed.
Okay,
Go ahead,
Bob.
go ahead. What do you think?
So just one clarification that I want to add process-wise. When it comes to an executive session, you can have an executive session to speak with your legal counsel. But as far as negotiating amendments to the contract, that is not something we would be doing in executive session, okay? So if you'd like to receive legal counsel from me about this contract or anything else, then the council, the board can direct me to do that, and then I can provide that advice to you.
So reading the contract, for me, it's confusing. We've had nothing but trouble trying to get this thing straightened out. Through several different processes over the last 2 years. In the contract, part of it says the commissioners will do one-on-one sessions to talk to the general manager about performance, and then it talks about, and another paragraph, talks about only the whole board could sit down and talk to the general manager about the contract. So we have these conflicts in the contract that don't make it easy for us to know what the process is to talk about this thing. And the change in the public meeting law, we used to do things significantly different. Now we're trying to meet the letter of the law, which is good. And I would just suggest that we figure out how to set up a forum in executive session to do that.
Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
I think it's appropriate before we continue this discussion to get a second on the motion from Commissioner McNeil or not. I mean, we have a motion and we have not had a second. And that,
I hear a second.
Well, what's the motion is to be talked about?
The motion is to set up an appointment for an executive session to vote this contract with council.
Anyone? No? No? I guess it's dropped.
Motion fails for lack of second.
Well, he's got a problem then.
Item 6. You gonna read it, or Naomi, are you gonna read it?
Sure. I move the board approve the amended and restated employment agreement between Clackamas River Water and Todd Heiderkin, and authorize the board president to sign on behalf of the district.
Second.
Been seconded, is, any questions?
We had this discussion at the work sessions.
So it's ready for a vote?
Are you ready? Okay. Commissioner Anger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
Agenda item,
On the consent.
oh, the consent. I thought we voted that in, didn't we?
Not yet. I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, second. Vote on it. Any questions for, no question? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Anger?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Management.
Don't tell her it's done.
Management.
You're all over on that.
Ready?
Finally.
All right, we'll
Pastor.
proceed then. Just a couple things real quick in your folders that were on your tables. You had a couple of different handouts. One was the monthly reports from December. In addition to that, we also had the revised copy of the board policy. You got the whole section 3, and that includes the changes that were made to section 3.5 that was approved by the board. And then you also have a copy of the latest bill inserts that will go out with the bills this month. One thing to note in that bill insert is it does include some web links that aren't active yet because we're in the process of updating our website that will happen next week. A while back you received an overview of the new website and so on. So they will be active by the time this gets to people's mailboxes and so on. However, I just wanted to make sure that in case you pointed people to certain directions before it's active next week, that those links may not work. And in particular, I want to bring that to your attention because one of the things we're going to be highlighting in the newsletter is the budget committee members that are going to be needed for our next budget committee process, and I'll touch on that in just a minute. We talked a little bit earlier about the South Fork Water Board transmission main. There's some information in your report. I think some additional information to be aware of is that South Fork has, through a consultant engineer working with the contractor, have developed a plan where they're going to actually replace a portion, about a 40-foot portion of the pipe. They discovered 2 leaks, and in their analysis, they feel the best option to move forward is actually to remove and replace that portion of the pipe. What that will require is that pipe will need to be fabricated, and so they figure there's about a 5 to 6 week lead time to get that pipe fabricated. But something that South Fork has approved moving forward on, and so they'll get that going. In the meantime, we continue to operate off the bypass, the newly installed bypass line, and so that's all been working well from an operational standpoint. Kind of moving on through the agenda report, just in addition to what's already in there, a couple of changes to highlight. One on the Clackamas River Water Providers meeting, noted that there was a start of a discussion as it relates to the summer water supply planning. There was a recognition that we probably need to have more of a discussion on that, so there's another meeting that's been scheduled in January to get us ahead, because as we've seen, very low river flows, not much snowpack so far, so we want to make sure we're talking about that sooner than later as we move forward. Next thing just to quickly highlight is on top of page 4 of 6, the Water Investment and Resiliency Business Forum. So been working with Water Environment Services, who has been organizing an outreach to the business community, and so they've scheduled 3 sessions, 3 forums, and I've been asked to participate as the drinking water representative on those forums. So we do have 3 of those forums scheduled, and so that's good news, where we'll be able to kind of communicate some of the drinking water, what's been going on, and some of the needs, and moving on from there. We'll also talk a little bit about emergency preparedness, and I think, things like the South Fork situation with the leak, highlight real opportunities and things that we can talk about. I mentioned the CRW Budget Committee openings, so we're going to have 3 positions that will be open.
That's a lot.
And so we have 2 returning members with Mr. Kerr and Ms. Blue that will continue in their service, but with 3 additional positions that will be open. So we'll start that solicitation process, obviously through a newsletter, a website. Obviously, if you folks know folks who may be interested, please highlight that. Carol's our point of contact with that, so if anybody wants more information, she'd be a good person to get a hold of. Anything to add to that? Okay. I think the information kind of outlines what we need of folks and expect and so on. One thing I wanted to note is It's a season of giving, so one of the things that the staff participates in is the Clackamas Fire District. Number one, they held a food and toy drive for the holidays, and so we recently had a barrel out in the entryway that was recently picked up. It was nice to see that it was overflowing, and we had over 150 different items that included food and toys and everything that was contributed to that, and will be used to help families in the area who are in need this holiday season. Also wanted to mention that we had a retirement effective tomorrow. So Kurt Savala he's one of our an engineering tech and been a long-term inspector, is retiring with almost 27 years of service. So we had a chance to thank him today, and he will be here tomorrow, and then tomorrow's his last day. So he will be greatly missed. He's has quite a thumbprint on the district and has been responsible for a lot of good things in the district, so we'll miss him. And looking at some items moving ahead, one thing I wanted to make you aware of, it'll be an item that we'll bring to your attention at a future board meeting, that CRW, we're coordinating with the county regarding the Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Project, which is making some roadway improvements between the 82nd Avenue and I-205 along Sunnybrook and Sunnyside Roads. This project is going to require CRW to relocate some of our facilities at various locations, and to include things like water lines, valve cans, and some of the services. So we're working with the county and their consultant to design some of these into some of the relocations into the process. And so to best coordinate this effort, we're going to be pursuing with the county that we enter into some agreements with them for the projects to allow some of our water line work to be taken care of as part of that process.
And when is this?
Next summer.
Gets to
Next
it?
summer, so
Oh, they may be all striped on it. They're talking striped.
So there are details of the IGA. I'm just giving you a heads up at this point. We'll work on details of what that agreement would look like, and it's obviously something that would have to be approved by the board.
Are there any drawings or whatnot available of the proposed realignments?
I'll defer to Adam and Joe.
I'll defer to Joe. He's been working on the
With regard to the water line relocations, no, there are no designs yet.
I was thinking the roadway realignment.
The the county has 90% plans ready. We have them on our server, but there's hundreds of them. So it's an FTP site that you're gonna have to, where you come drive, we can hook you up and get you those drawings if you're interested.
I'll think about that. Thank you.
Looking at the schedule items, just reminder, it's in your packet here that our offices will be closed in observance of Christmas Day on Tuesday, December 25th, and New Year's Day on Tuesday, January 1st. We open other times during that week. Also, we don't have a work session scheduled for December, and our next agenda preparation meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 20th, so for Commissioner Klein and Commissioner French. We also, you'd also received, I think Karen had sent out information about the SDAO annual conference, be held February 8th through 10th. So if you're interested in attending, please let Karen know as soon as possible. It is an event that fills up quickly as far as hotels and all of that. SDAO will also be holding a legislative day, which will include speakers who will provide a preview of the 2019 Oregon legislative session, and that will be held on Friday, January 18th in Salem. Again, if you're interested in attending something like that, please let Karen know so we get you signed up. That one's free of charge. And then also the North Clackamas Chamber will once again be hosting the State of the County Forum on Wednesday, February 13th. This is a luncheon event that they do every year, so it goes from 11:30 to 1:15. Again, if you're interested, please let Karen know. And then just a reminder, we do have an executive session this evening that will occur after this meeting, and Commissioner Kalani will read the executive session citations before we adjourn this meeting.
You ready?
Commissioner.
Not yet.
I know.
I'm done. Or do you want me to read them?
No, are you finished?
I'm done.
I just want to know if you were ready for me.
I got you. Gotcha.
The CRW Board of Commissioners is convening an executive session 2. 1, discuss informational records that are exempt by law from public inspection pursuant to ORS 192.6602 F and 192.3559. Number 2, conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions pursuant to ORS 192.6602E. Number 3, to consult with counsel concerning the legal right and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed pursuant to ORS 192.6602H. Adjourned.